Hello and welcome to this week's episode of TV POV. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Jen.
And we've got another jam-packed week of news and a couple of series that we're going to discuss. Let's get things started with a really interesting development, I thought, in the whole TV industry. Canadian network City TV, along with Netflix and Show Me, which is the new Canadian, kind of like a Canadian Netflix streaming platform.
Right.
That's going to be kicking off in November. Mm-hmm. They've teamed up to create a premium original drama that's called Between, that photography started on this week in Toronto. It's about a town that's under siege from a mysterious disease, and for some reason people under 21 are immune to it, or they're all surviving it. So it sounds like a really neat concept.
It sounds like it should be on the CW, since they don't like anyone to be over 21 at all anyway.
And the star is Jeanette McCurdy, who a lot of people will know from iCarly and Sam and Cat.
Oh, right, yeah.
We had talked about before how just the whole TV landscape is changing and how it's so exciting because the opportunities are endless. And a deal like this wouldn't have even been dreamt of years ago. And now, especially because Rogers, which owns City and owns part of Show Me, had some issues with Netflix during CRTC hearings and stuff like that. That's all business stuff. We won't get into that. But it's a really interesting development that they're now teaming up.
Yeah, that's the fascinating part, is that people are working with their competitors, and we might see maybe more of that with video on demand services teaming up with the broadcasters rather than butting heads with them, which is good. That's good all around.
Yeah, the first season's 6 episodes, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. We got some more full season orders this week, and these ones I am so excited for.
So am I.
They're both CW shows. The Flash, and my new obsession, Jane the Virgin.
Everyone's new obsession.
It's so cute, and I'm recapping it for the Televixen, so I'm so happy that I'm going to get to recap all full 22 episodes for the CW. But it's interesting because both of those shows have really strong critical responses, and they're both CW shows, which is not usually a critical response. CW, not usually something.
You know what I think is really great about both of them is they're not dark and moody like a lot of stuff that's been popular.
Yeah.
Jane the Virgin, even despite the subject matter, is so upbeat. I mean, yeah, it's kind of comical, but at the same time, it could have gone totally the other way.
It absolutely could have.
And The Flash, even though it's a superhero show and there are villains, Barry Allen as a superhero is, he's a cheerier superhero.
Yeah.
And then with, every time there are renewals on some shows or full season pickups, we had one cancellation from FX, which I was very upset about. The Bridge will not be getting another season. Both seasons of that show were stellar. Phenomenal writing, phenomenal acting, just really great, really great work all around. But I guess at the end of it all, the ratings weren't high enough to sustain a third season of it.
Yeah, it's too bad. But we did get some renewals of shows that are getting second seasons. One is Sci-Fi's Z Nation, which I only watched the pilot.
Same here.
2 words, zombie baby. Check it out. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen on television, just that one scene. So I guess I don't really have any thoughts either way on that, other than I've heard some people really like it. It's not my thing, but I guess it's interesting to see Sci-Fi has confidence in it.
A lot of people like it because it's the anti-Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And some people who find Walking Dead very slow and too character-driven. This is a lot more action-packed, chop 'em up.
Also, DirecTV renewed their hit show Kingdom, which is the mixed martial arts show, which I'm assuming has a plot, but all I've ever seen are really ripped guys punching stuff. Just in all the promos, I'm like, okay, it actually looks like mixed martial arts.
And it's like Matt Lauria from Friday Night Lights and Nick Jonas.
I know, that's the thing that really, I was like, Nick Jonas?
Who is apparently extremely ripped.
Well, I mean, I'm tempted. I'm just on that layer alone, I'm tempted.
I've heard it's good.
Yeah, so they've got 20 episodes, I think, that they're going to be filming for second season. And because it's DirecTV, they don't release normal ratings like everybody else, but they have claimed that it's one of their highest rated shows of all time. So that's exciting.
We've got kind of a reinvention, reboot type series. NBC is going to revive Bewitched, which I'm kind of torn about. What the plan is with this NBC pilot that they're working on is that it's Samantha, who was the original protagonist, her granddaughter.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it could be interesting. It could be a Battlestar Galactica, or it could, be something much worse.
Yeah, I think this concept has so much legs to it, and obviously, as long as they don't really mess it up the way they did with that movie with Will Ferrell and
Nicole Kidman,
which was horrific. I think that even if it stays lighthearted and kitschy, that a new generation with a little more tongue-in-cheek will really work.
It's the new vampire / zombie. Witches are everywhere.
Witches are the new vampire?
Exactly.
Well, that makes sense. Netflix has also ordered another animated series. I believe their first one was BoJack Horseman.
Which is phenomenal if you have never seen it.
Okay.
One of the best, not just animated series, but one of the best comedies I've seen.
Really?
It is sublime.
I have to check that out. The name just it put me right off.
Don't let it throw you off.
So this one is called F for Family, and it's based around stand-up comedian Bill Burr, and we'll have Justin Long and Laura Dern doing voices as well. And it's set in the 70s, and what I thought was really funny was the line they used to promote it was the 70s are a time when you could smack your kid, smoke inside, and bring a gun to the airport. So obviously expect to see probably all of those things happening and similar politically incorrect funny happenings. I think that's a great idea.
And it's 6 episodes, so short, sweet, potentially very, very funny.
Absolutely.
So Fox is working on a Frankenstein series, which I do not know how I feel about it, but to be clear, it's not exactly Frankenstein, Mary Shelley Frankenstein. It's about a morally corrupt FBI agent who is brought back from the dead, and he'll have to choose between his old ways or trying to be, someone with a sense of purpose. So I don't know.
Well, the biggest problem I have with anything Frankenstein related is that Frankenstein typically not much of a personality. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to base a show around a guy who's put together by bits and pieces and grunts a lot. I'm assuming that's not what they're doing, but if it's just a guy who's brought back from the dead by science, it might bear almost no resemblance to Frankenstein in the first place. Maybe they're just using the name. It kind of reminded me of Sleepy Hollow, just in the way that they're taking this kind of like horror story and reinventing it for the modern world. So if it has that tone, it could work. It's just funny to base a show around Frankenstein.
Yeah, and when they first announced Sleepy Hollow, I was like, what in the holy hell?
Yeah.
And now it's one of my absolute favorite shows.
So it's possible. As we keep talking about every week, more and more movies adapted for TV shows. The latest two, Will Smith is bringing Hitch to Fox, which was a 2005 romantic comedy movie about...
That eye roll was not subtle at all.
Well, I didn't hate the movie. I don't think it's like begging for a TV adaptation. And so it's going to be a workplace comedy. I believe Hitch was a matchmaker. Don't know if it's going to be exactly that, but that's sort of the premise. And the other one is that NBC gave a pilot commitment to Marley and Me.
No!
Which was...
No! No stories about doggies that die.
Well, but
spoiler alert!
But here's the thing, though. If the TV show is continuous and goes on forever, not forever, but like for seasons, does that mean the dog just won't die until the end? Is it just going to be a show about people and dogs for like 5 years until the dog suddenly
or
dies
at the end of every season a dog dies and they bring another?
Oh my god, that's terrible! Don't do that. If you're listening, NBC, do not kill a dog annually.
Just don't do this as a series, please. As a dog lover, I don't think my heart can take it.
You know what I would like to see, although it doesn't make sense with the title, is an anthology series where every season is a new family dog relationship. That I would watch. Of course, they wouldn't all be named Marley, but I would love the idea of examining, a couple's relationship, family's relationship through the guise of them having this relationship with their dog, as long as the dog doesn't die every year. That's important. I'm just curious to see what totally random movie gets pulled off the dust shelf and thrown into TV production next week.
Mars Attacks, the TV show.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened already, actually.
So Fox also seems to be continuing its investment in Ryan Murphy and all things Ryan Murphy.
Yeah.
They have ordered another anthology series from him. As you all know, he is one of the main people behind American Horror Story on Fox's FX. This one is Scream Queen, and it's a horror comedy that will debut in 2015 with 15 episodes. So it's about a college campus that's rocked by murders, but then I guess later seasons will have different plots and different locations, I'm assuming?
Yeah, that's what the press release says. A funny thing that I read when I was on Twitter was that in the press release, they're pretty much saying out loud that they are trying to invent a new genre with horror comedy, which is weird because, Evil Dead, but also on TV, it was the creators of Tom and the Book of Pure Evil that were kind of poking fun about that. With anyone who saw that was a really great Canadian series that was definitely a horror comedy and aired on Scream, the Scream Network in the States. So I kind of just think it's a little bit egotistical for Ryan Murphy to say he invented the genre.
Exactly.
Certainly it's been done in various incarnations. Maybe it hasn't hit mainstream on TV, but people have been doing some really good creative things with that for years.
I guess we could also get into the whole, well, it happened in Canada, but that doesn't really count until it happens in the US.
Another property that's coming to TV, we were talking about all of these movies and horror stories and whatnot. This is Greg Berlanti adapting, wait for it, Archie, the world of the Archie comics, in a series called Riverdale.
I love Archie. I grew up on Archie.
Well, I can't believe there hasn't been, other than a cartoon, a kind of I think it's perfect. It's a teenage, full of teen angst and comedy and, different romantic entanglements. You'd think they would have made that already. But this is apparently going to be a dark version. There was a little bit of talk about the darkness bubbling beneath Riverdale. So that's, odd because I didn't get the sense there was any darkness bubbling at all beneath Riverdale. Did you?
Maybe. Who knows? I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this. One of the most exciting aspects of it for me is that Josie and the Pussycats are part of it.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
baby.
Yeah.
I love.
I wonder
Josie
if
and the
we'll see
Pussycats.
any like Sabrina the Teenage Witch showing up or any of these people. Although that's kind of weird because then all of a sudden you get supernatural elements into it. But
maybe that could be the dark underbelly.
maybe Sabrina's controlling everything.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, definitely. Hopefully, it's poking fun at it. And bringing that stuff out, but I'm very curious to see what a bold, subversive version of the Archie comics looks like, right? Because I can't imagine what it would be.
Yeah.
So hopefully Greg Berlanti knows and has a good plan.
One final bit of news that is huge. AMC has purchased a 49.9% stake in BBC America for $200 million.
That is huge.
That's huge. It means that AMC is going to have operational control of BBC America, which it will include affiliate and advertising sales.
Wow.
And it's not the first time that the two networks have partnered on stuff. They've worked together on Top of the Lake, Honorable Woman, and there's an upcoming series called One Child. So the two are going to continue to jointly pursue content for both of the networks. It'll be spread across the two channels.
I like that. I like that as a pairing. I think they could do they have done really great things together.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll continue to do that. But it is a big move for AMC. It's quite shocking.
Also, AMC doesn't really have a lot going on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's The Walking Dead, which is huge for them, and we'll talk a bit about that later. But with Breaking Bad ending and Mad Men coming to an end soon, of course they're going to want to, partner with a network that has powerhouses like Doctor Who and Orphan Black.
Yes.
So it makes sense. I'm curious to see how it'll all work out.
Yeah.
How it will change the programming.
So on to our favorite casting news of the week, and this was a heavy week of casting, so it was kind of hard to pick. Lots of big names, big shows, but I went with Morena Baccarin from Firefly and Homeland. She'll always be a Nora to me. She has been cast in Gotham, which I guess is sort of could go either way for me, because as I've mentioned, I'm not a Gotham fan yet, but it does give me some incentive to check out Gotham because I love me some Morena Baccarin.
Yeah.
And she's going to be playing a doctor who works at an asylum for the criminally insane, which sounds like the perfect, it sounds like pretty much everyone in Gotham should be living there, so she'll probably have her hands full.
What I think is really interesting is that the character that she's playing, that character in the comics, Dr. Leslie Tompkins, becomes like a mother figure to Bruce Wayne when he's younger.
Yeah, she's a family friend.
So that is, I think that's a big tie-in, because right now all he has is Alfred.
Yeah.
My bit of casting news, and it's totally self-serving and biased because I'm a huge fan. Christian Slater has landed the title role in USA Network's pilot Mr. Robot, which apparently earlier today they were filming the pilot in Coney Island. So exciting! If you haven't heard about the show yet, it's about a computer programmer named Elliot, who has already been cast. His name escapes me at the moment, but he suffers from a really, really bad antisocial disorder, and decides the only way he can connect with people is by hacking with them. And Mr. Robot, who Slater will be playing, is a mysterious anarchist who runs like an anonymous type organization who's trying to bring down corporate America and hires Elliot to work for him. So that could be interesting, although I'm always nervous when Christian Slater's on TV because his record is not very good.
I think the word is abysmal. I have nothing against Christian Slater, but he has a horrific television record.
But the difference with this, and the reason why I think this one will have more potential, it's not a network series, it's a cable series.
So they might give it more time, yeah.
Any of the shows that he's done on network TV, I've always thought that on a cable network would have probably done well.
I mean, an anarchist, that sounds like the perfect role for Christian Slater. He just looks like a shit disturber, so...
It's Happy Harry Hard-On as an adult from Up the Volume. It's Hard Harry, all grown up.
Oh, that's cool. That's
well,
cool. Well, good luck. Good luck. I hope he breaks his streak.
Yes, I mean, and and if all else fails, he does have the recurring role on Archer now.
Yeah.
He's playing a CIA agent named Slater. It was created for him, and it's an awesome little role.
We also have another bit of casting that we wanted to mention because it does have a bit of an emotional angle to it, and that is that Steve Coogan has been cast in the Showtime series Happyish, which was a role that was originally played in the pilot films last year by Philip Seymour Hoffman, who obviously we all know passed away earlier this year. So they've given this role to Steve Coogan and they're going to refilm the pilot, but initially it had already been ordered to series with Hoffman in the role, but all the rest of the cast was released after he passed away, so they're refilming the pilot with a new cast and Steve Coogan in the lead, and it's not guaranteed to go to series anymore. But, you know, he's a great actor himself in his own right, so look out for Happyish. Hopefully it does get ordered to series with a new cast behind it.
Now on to a couple of series. We've got one returning series and a new series that we're going to chat about. First, let's talk about the returning series, which
let's do it.
The Walking Dead.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
First 2 episodes so far, 5th season.
Okay. I love this show. I love it. But I'm going to say, I don't know if I can take it this year. Like, I don't think my stomach or my eyes are going to be able to take what's happening right now. I mean, we all knew in the season 4 finale that there was a good chance some people were going to be eaten. And not just by zombies, because people are getting eaten all the time on the show, but by living human beings. Yeah. It got a little more gross than I even thought they would go. Boy, was there were some images that I can't wash clean. They're stuck.
From the first episode, I cannot, the trough, and Rick looks over at the blonde guy at the far end, realizes it's one of those hitchers that they didn't pick up, the hitcher and the girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Who's the first one who gets... Also, that's Robin Lord Taylor, who's playing Penguin on Gotham.
Really?
He's blonde normally.
I didn't know that, but...
I mean, he's off to bigger and better things now, but oh my god, that was so disturbing. Like, treating them like pigs at the slaughter.
Basically, they arrived at Terminus last season, right?
Yeah.
So when we learned last season that Terminus was not the sanctuary they were hoping it would be, and we found out a little bit more about it, and apparently it was at one point a sanctuary, but some of the people who found their way to the sanctuary took over, and they did a lot of despicable things. They raped people, they killed people, and so the people from Terminus were determined to get it back, and once they did, they decided not only to not make it a sanctuary, but to turn it into a cannibalism human factory. Which, really not going to give them a pass on that one.
No, not at all.
I am sorry that someone raped your women. I really am. It sucks. I'm sorry that people mistreated you. Probably didn't have to eat them.
I'd rather starve than eat a human.
I mean, yeah, I'm not talking of, no, you know what? I don't know. I can't say that. If I was in like alive and someone died and I was starving and I was frozen, like, I'm not saying it would not, but I would certainly not go around killing them, especially in a cold, calculated, like, mass production almost. No.
Commentary on the meat industry as well. I think so.
Well,
vegans were probably cheering,
absolutely.
and animal rights activists are like,
the scene you spoke about at the trough, in which they, not too really graphic, but they slit people's throats over a bucket so that they could drain the blood. So I guess I did get graphic. That's not very different from the scenes that you would see in movies that depict slaughterhouses.
Yeah.
I mean, The Walking Dead has never shied away from violence. This is a violent show. But even I was shocked by how much they were willing to show.
What disturbed me even more was the second episode. And our poor friend Bob, who's done so much to redeem himself and become such a vital part of the group.
Yeah. He got pulled away from the camp, and he woke up tied up, and he didn't even realize that he had half a leg at this point, and they were eating it in front of him. And this is the part that truly makes me feel like if there's going to be like this kind of cannibalism all season, I mean, this is going to be really tough on me, because it's one of the things that really grosses me out.
We kind of left the first episode with a teeny bit of hope because they had escaped Terminus.
Yeah.
They'd made it out thanks to Carol, who's back with all of them. They don't know exactly everything that's gone down with her, but she's back and she's helping out, and she basically saved their lives.
That was one of my favorite moments in all of Walking Dead history, is when Carol showed up and Daryl turned to look at her and ran at her to hug her and literally like did a brief crying on her shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, laid his head on her shoulder. Like, I've always been a Carol and Daryl shipper, but even if there's never any real romance between them, that moment it showed why people are so intensely passionate about that relationship, because there's such a connection there. And to see him sort of break down upon her return, because he wasn't part of the decision to exile her, and he kind of took it in stride and sucked a lot of that back when Rick told him that she wasn't coming back. And I think he still had a lot of that to let out, because he probably thought he was never going to see her again.
Yeah. Also, I mean, finding out that Judith was alive was wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's really going to bring out, with Rick and Carl and how far they've had to go and the things they've had to do. I think having Judith back into play will maybe help them reconnect with their they've kind of had to turn off the emotion and turn off the human aspect. I think having Judith back in the picture will
Yeah, it's moments
Yeah.
like those reunions where it really makes the viewers believe and the characters believe that there's hope in all of this, because it's so crazy to think that, you know, you could be reunited with your baby in the midst of this world when you were miles and miles apart.
Also, Maggie and Glenn are still alive. Yeehaw.
Yes.
Because if they die, I riot.
The other new development, of course, is that we're introduced to a new character, a priest who the gang discovered in the woods being attacked by walkers, who seems ridiculously inept to deal with anything given how long this zombie apocalypse has been going on. And he brings them back to the church where they get to stay. There's some question as to whether or not he's trustworthy. Now, what was your impression like of him? What do you think happened?
I'm pretty sure I know what happened. I think that when the shit hit the fan, i.e. the walkers, he barricaded himself in the church and shut out all of his parishioners.
That's exactly what I
and
think
lived
happened.
on everything they had collected.
Yes.
Or what had been brought to the food bank already. And that's why he's also very guilty. And
Yes.
that's why when he saw his church lady friend with glasses as
was
a
a walker,
walker,
yeah.
I think that's why that really hit him.
Yeah, that's exactly what
yeah.
I think happened as well, which is an interesting, interesting twist, because I didn't want him to be evil, and I don't think he is evil,
No.
but I think that that's the sort of thing that's too horrific for him to speak about, and that's
Yeah.
why he comes across sketchy, because he's living with this, you know, in some ways understandable,
Yeah.
you know, not the best thing to do, but this sort of gut human reaction to danger was, I think he took the coward's way out, and he's living with that.
The last thing that I think we should talk about was at the end of the first episode, a little blast from the past that we saw at the very, very end. Morgan.
I didn't even catch that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Morgan is nearby.
Really?
Yeah.
I must have completely missed that. I'm so excited about that.
I cannot wait to see when and if he meets up with the rest of the crew and what's going to happen. Because the guy, I mean, we haven't seen much of him throughout the series, but the guy's been through the freaking ringer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really excited for that.
That's cool. So the last series that we're going to talk about is The Affair, which is a new series that's airing on Showtime, which has aired 2 episodes so far as well. Very different series than The Walking Dead, very, very different pace. And what makes this show interesting is the premise, really. It's the story of an affair between 2 married people that's told from both of their perspectives. So half of the episode is told from the male character Noah's perspective, and the other half is told from the female character Allison's perspective. They're both married to different people. Noah is married to Helen, who's played by Maura Tierney. Dominic C. West plays Noah. And Allison is married to Cole, who's played by Joshua Jackson. I believe the actress playing Allison's name is Ruth Wilson.
Yes.
There's nothing super twisty about this show in terms of the plot right now. It's a pretty standard plot, you know, exploring a affair between 2 people, except for that these 2 are recounting the story of their affair to cops sometime in the future, presumably because somehow this ties into some type of murder. Someone was run down the road, I believe, at some point, and they're telling their versions of the stories. So we talked about it a little bit briefly before the show started about what we were thinking, and we do have a bit of a difference of opinion. So what were your thoughts on the show?
I'm having a bit of trouble getting into it. It's just very slow. I mean, I'm intrigued by seeing both sides of the story, so that is interesting. By the second episode, I was a little more interested, but in the first episode, I was losing interest, mainly because I don't really care about the characters so much. As you learn more about them, you start to become invested in them, and I didn't have that initial feeling, so I will check out more of it. The acting is great. The acting is really, really good. I don't think we've ever seen Joshua Jackson in a role like this before.
No.
He's very kind of, and it depends who's telling the story.
Yes.
He's troubled, he's disturbed. I mean, there's the whole Cole and Allison had a child, a son, that died very young.
Yes.
That's really, really taking a toll on their relationship. And it comes across in Cole being very brutal to Allison, and some, like, people see it that way.
But it's interesting that you talk about some people seeing Joshua Jackson's character as brutal, because I'm in love with this series, and I didn't even really think about whether I was invested in the characters, because I was so swept away in the nuance of the narrative device of this whole he said, she said thing, that I completely didn't even think about anything else.
Yeah.
But one thing that I found so interesting is that, first of all, when these two characters tell their stories, they're different.
Yeah.
They're so different. And you don't really know if they're telling the truth or whether they're remembering things the way they want to remember them. But everything is different in each version, from the obvious things about who came on to who and who was doing more flirting, who kissed who first.
Yeah.
Those are very different from each of the perspectives. But it's down to the minute details that they're different. There's a party that takes place in the second episode, and Allison is catering and Noah's there as a guest. And in each version, some of these little nuances are different.
Yeah.
In one version, Allison has her hair down and she's wearing heels. In another version, that's in his version. In Noah's version, she's wearing heels and she has her hair down. In her version, she's got her hair tied back and she's wearing flats. In her version, she says she can't swim, and in his version, she's running around in the water, inviting him to come in. So there's all of these crazy discrepancies, but one of the things that really varies between each story is how they see the other person's spouse.
Yeah.
Because some of the other characters come across mostly the same, but the spouses come across very, very differently. Definitely Noah does see Joshua Jackson's character Cole as this brutal guy. There's sort of a violent sex scene that he witnesses outside, where they have sex up against a car, but Allison sees it very differently than Noah does. And also Allison kind of sees Helen as a bit of a bitch, which you don't see at all in Noah's version. On top of that, they're also talking to the cops about this.
Yeah.
And they're recounting each of their narratives to the cop, which is two different stories. But then they say things to the cop that are different than what we see in their narrative. So it's almost as though there are four different narratives. The cop will say, did you see her again that night? And Noah will say, no, I didn't. But then we see from Noah's perspective that he did meet up with her again and kiss her. So it's like Noah's perspective, Allison's perspective, but what Noah is willing to tell the cops and what Allison's willing to tell the cops, which is like four different things. It's incredibly fascinating.
What I thought was really neat is how Allison and Noah become connected. Knowing that, I mean, Allison has lost, we've already talked about this, Allison has lost a child. They meet when Noah and Helen's child starts choking, and Helen freezes, and Noah has the little girl upside down, and Allison steps in to help.
That's true.
So I thought that was a really, like, someone having lost a child stepping in to help someone who's potentially that has a choking child. And also, why are they talking to the cops? Who is this mystery
Well, of
dead
course,
person?
you've got that. Yes, you know, this will probably wear thin after a while if they don't pick up the action. But for now, I'm just so engaged in the experiment in narrative truth. And that sounds frou-frou, but it's really sucking me in, because you don't, you know, most shows have a narrator and you believe what they say to be gospel. And in this series, you don't know what to think. You don't even know the simplest things, like did someone order a Diet Coke or a cappuccino, which happens in two different, nothing, you can't take anything for granted. And that's so rare. So I'm like, I just adored it.
Yeah. I'm not in love with it, but I think I'll check out a bit more. So I think that wraps this week's episode.
I think so.
Thank you so much to all of you for watching. And for those of you who've left comments so far on Twitter and on YouTube and on watchtvpov.com, thank you so much. Please come back. Let us know what you think, if there's anything you think we should be talking about. If you want to hit us up on Twitter, I'm the Televixen.
And I'm Kit Couch Potato.
So with that, let's say farewell to everyone. I'm Melissa.
I'm Jen.
Have a good week.